From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Friday, April the 29th, 2022. Muslim prayers for the last Friday of Ramadan concluded peacefully today at the Temple Mount in Jerusalem's Old City after Palestinian rioting earlier this morning. An estimated 160,000 Palestinians worshipped at the Al-Aqsa Mosque just a short time after Israel police dispersed Palestinian rioters who threw rocks and launched fireworks towards them and towards the Kotel, the Western Wall. The Times of Israel cited Police Commissioner Kobi Shabtai saying that the actions of the police during Ramadan and during the Friday prayers prove that we are determined not to let any extremist elements break the peace and undermine the freedom of worship. And the IDF shared an image on this last Friday of the Muslim holy month, wishing a generous or blessed Ramadan, showing a Jewish IDF soldier and a Muslim IDF soldier praying together and defending their country together, writing, "This is the Israel Defense Forces. Shabbat Shalom and Ramadan Kareem." Threats against Israel today were made from Palestinian terror group Islamic Jihad and from Iran for Quds Day, an anti-Israel event initiated back in 1979 by Iran that is held on the last Friday of Ramadan. In Tehran today, Iran's leaders led thousands of Iranians chanting death threats against and burning flags of Israel and of the United States. Israel's Defense Ministry shared updated data ahead of Yom HaZikaron next week, Israel's memorial to its fallen soldiers and victims of terror. The number of casualties in the Israeli system from 1860 to the present day, the ministry published, is 24,068. That number includes 56 IDF soldiers' names who were added since last Yom HaZikaron, which begins next week, Tuesday night. We reported to you yesterday on a number of ceremonies and events for Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, in Israel, in Poland, and at the White House. A ceremony was also held on the eve of Yom HaShoah, Wednesday, at the U.S. Capitol, where a number of lawmakers read the names of Holocaust victims out loud and heard testimony from Holocaust survivors, including from 96-year-old Frank Cohn.
Once hate becomes prevalent and tolerated, it is too late to be stopped. That is the lesson that must be taught, and the victims of the unchecked hatred must be remembered. I'm gratified that our elected officials recognize the importance of taking on the essential work of remembrance and the responsibility of preventing future atrocities.
Jewish Illinois Democrat Brad Schneider, who led the ceremony as a trustee of the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum Council, said, "We have a national commitment to remember the Holocaust. The loss of 6 million Jews is incomprehensible." He said families with no gravestone, stripped of their rights and their dignity, were reduced to a number on their arm. We owe it to them to remember their names and their stories. Also on Wednesday, a special medical transport flight carrying Holocaust survivors rescued from Ukraine landed at Ben Gurion Airport. Israel's Minister of Aliyah and Absorption, Peninnah Tamano-Shata, wrote, "It is so symbolic on the eve of Holocaust Remembrance Day to now receive at the airport 9 Holocaust survivors who fled the battles in Ukraine on a special rescue flight of the Zaka, the international rescue organization based in Jerusalem, and the Friendship Foundation." 12 other survivors arrived on flights organized by the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. The Times of Israel said they joined some 500 Holocaust survivors, estimated to now be among the more than 15,000 people from Ukraine, Russia, and Belarus who have immigrated to Israel since Russia began its assault on Ukraine at the end of February. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Friday, April the 29th. Live Shabbat services are coming up at 6 o'clock from New York City's Central Synagogue, followed by Shabbat services from the Hampton Synagogue. At 8:30, a concert from the Krakow Festival. At 9, The film Kinderblock 66 returned to Buchenwald, a documentary about 4 men who survived the Buchenwald concentration camp as children, who returned to the compound for the 65th anniversary of their liberation. At 10:30, a replay of the Hampton Synagogue Services, followed by a replay from Central Synagogue. And coming up next, a look at this week's Torah Portion. And that's the JBS News Update for Friday, April the 29th, 2022. I'm Teisha Bader. Stay healthy, stay well, and Shabbat Shalom.